first, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 6.
The rivers are cresting in some cities, but we are far from done with the flooding. Dozens of roads are still closed, as well as some schools and businesses. That's right. That includes Elkhart schools. They are closed tomorrow. And now part of Crumbstown Highway in St. Joseph County is closed. We have team coverage starting with WSBT 22 Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin. And he joins us live along the St. Joseph River in downtown Mishawaka. Matt?
Hey guys, yeah, we've been in South Bend, now Mishawaka, just at the St. Joseph River. We got crews elsewhere. I'll step out of the way. This is a raging river, as you would expect. The good news is the water's gone down some, but still this is at record levels. And you can see near the dam there, the water is flowing exceptionally fast as it moves downstream towards South Bend. And this has been a problem that we've obviously seen for a few days now. Some of that standing water we've dealt with that began early week. A lot of that has receded, and I'm well aware that there's still a lot of standing water, but some of that has receded, and obviously it flows into the creeks and rivers, and this is the result of it. But again, trying to find some good news here, and one of it is that the waters continue to at least slowly go down, but still very dangerous to get close to it. There's been firefighters and police officers out here. A lot of people obviously want to see what's going on, since this is literally a once-in-a-lifetime event that we've seen. Mayor Pete Buttigieg said a 500-year flood. Again, we've got team coverage all over the place. Want to send it up to Berrien County and Niles, where WSBT's Cassidy Williams is at. She said it could be over a week until some of the water recedes. And Cassidy, you mentioned there's been a lot of damage to buildings as well.
Matt, the city says 50 buildings are damaged. I'm standing in front of one of them. This is the city's Dial-A-Ride building. This is the city's public transportation, and it's one of just 50. Now, not all city buildings. Some are apartments, some are businesses that have been flooded. For now, the city has moved these transportation services to the law enforcement complex if anyone needs a ride. Now, I was actually here last night around this same time when the city was building this wall of sand you can still see around this building. Clearly, the wall of sand didn't work. The river eventually crested this morning at 17.3 feet, which was record-breaking, higher than the city expected. So the sand did not hold. And the mayor said he's been getting asked a lot of questions from people about why more sandbags weren't placed elsewhere in the city, kind of closer to the river. He says the city learned back in the 1980s that when the river levels get this high, sandbags can sometimes do more harm than good.
City leaders learned that sandbags are not always an effective measure in the event of flooding, because water seeps through the bags and finer materials tend to leak through the seams.
I also asked city leaders why a state of emergency wasn't declared here like it was in other parts of our viewing area, mostly in Indiana. They said they don't know how it works in Indiana, but that here in Michigan, to declare a state of emergency, the city has to have used all of its resources, and they just didn't reach that point. But the city administrator says over the next couple of days, as they begin this cleanup, they might have to declare a state of emergency if the cleanup in Niles becomes too much to handle. Live in Niles, Cassidy Williams, WSBT 22 News.
Now back out here in St. Joseph County, obviously, again, the St. Joe River has exceeded the banks. You can see the walkway. Many of you walk your dogs here, right? The kids after school, completely covered with water. All this water, where we're at Mishawaka, is heading right towards South Bend, and that has created significant issues for the wastewater treatment plant. We'll toss it over to WSBT 22's Caitlin Conn. She's been covering this all day. Caitlin, earlier today, they had to shut the plant down. How are things going now?
It wasn't closed for long, just a few hours, but city leaders say the water levels on the river became so high that it flooded some of the holding tanks. Things are back up and running now, but only at a limited capacity. Leaders say any flow that can't be processed by the plant will end up back in the river, but any sewage would be diluted. Just one drop for every 500 drops of river water. Even with that in mind, some families are taking precautions tonight.
Yeah, no, we're not going to drink it. Right, yeah, and being cautious with what we're cleaning up. It doesn't seem to be sewage in most of the water, but I see water coming in through the sewer line. It seems like it's just a ton of water, so probably a lot of river water is in the sewer water as well.
Curry says even though he says he's even avoiding flushing his toilets, but even though the water in his basement is clear, he says there are other houses on the street that have murky water they believe has sewage in it. Live in South Bend, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 6.
The floodwaters are starting to recede, and that's giving us a better look at some of the devastation that is left behind. Berrien County and Niles are now under states of emergency, and a bit of good news now. South Bend just lifted its travel advisory. My co-anchor, Todd Connor, spent the day looking at the flooding damage that's out there, and Todd, Governor Eric Holcomb led a group of state leaders on 2 tours of flooding.
Jennifer, he certainly did. He said he wanted to make sure that state agencies are working with local communities to keep those communities safe. And he said that some agencies, like NDOT, they're already doing that.
We opened Michigan again, so now all 4 lanes are open. The Department of Corrections is on the ground helping with sandbagging. Department of Homeland Security, you've been here since yesterday, but we're all in.
After a stop in South Bend where he met local leaders, the governor headed to Goshen to meet with the Elkhart and Goshen mayors. He toured some flooding at Rogers Park and met with city workers and volunteers and promised to help get the city back on its feet. I asked Goshen Mayor Jeremy Stutzman if he had a list of things he'd like to see from the state.
We're just now trying to discover what we don't know yet. So we're looking, we're making our list. We don't know what condition our infrastructure is in at this point, so we're going to be assessing all that.
And speaking of assessment, that's part of the reason that the governor wanted to come here as well. He wanted to assess the damage. He wanted to see the flooding firsthand, and he got a chance to do that in a couple of brief tours here today, one at IUSB where we are now and another in Goshen. But it will take some time to assess the entire damage because the water will need to go down quite a bit for them to do that. Speaking of the water going down, it is starting to recede in many places, though in Berrien County, they did just declare a state of emergency today. WSBT 22's Jesse Schultz is live in Berrien Springs. And Jesse, 60 people are homeless as of right now, is that right?
Yeah, that is right. People here at River Springs Estate had to evacuate on Wednesday night. I'm about as far into the estate as the Berrien County Sheriff's deputy will let me be. But even just looking right beside me, you can see that this field, which now looks like a lake, is just evidence of just how much water this area received. Since I've been here, the U.S. Coast Guard has flown by in a helicopter several times. Coast Guard officials say they've been assessing the damage in Berrien County. Many of the people in River Springs turned to family and friends for shelter, but others went to the Red Cross. The organization set up a shelter at the Berrien Springs Middle School gym. Many I spoke to say they had to leave so fast they could only grab a few personal belongings, but some are seeing the good in a bad situation.
Really, everybody got out and nobody was hurt, so the only thing people are really going to be worried about now is losing what they could replace easily.
Our community has been outstanding with bringing in food, clothes, items for the kids to play with. So, you know, it's been a total community effort.
The Berrien County Sheriff's Department is letting a few people go in and grab some personal belongings. I also saw animal control here reuniting people with their missing animals. One town leader says it's great to see the community banding together, but he says the true test and when they're going to need all the help that they can get is when all of this water recedes and the cleanup really starts. I also spoke to the manager of these estates. She says there's 180 families that are displaced here, and based on her early estimate, she thinks about half of these homes are damaged beyond repair. I'm live in Berrien County. Jesse Schultz, WSBT 22 News.
Oh, a lot of people affected by all of this flooding, Jesse. Thank you. And of course, it's not just homes, but businesses as well. Lots of businesses on both sides of the state line closing down and now hoping to reopen soon. In Goshen, Kroger sent engineers in to inspect the store on Chicago Avenue. The water was inside the store. This is not far from where the governor was today. Crews are inspecting the building and cleaning up the debris. They will throw away anything that is contaminated or damaged, they assure you of that. The store will remain closed for now, but Kroger is sending a mobile pharmacy to restore prescription service, and the fuel center will also reopen within the next week. But we're not out of the woods yet, at least as far as the rain is concerned. Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin is talking about more rain heading our way, right, Matt?
More rain, yep, and we'll talk about that in a few minutes. I want to continue to update you on river levels. I know many of you are still looking for this information. From the National Weather Service, these are river forecasts. The blue line's what happened. This purple line is what will happen, at least forecast. And the pink area here is major flood. That's when it's over its banks, creating issues. And notice, it doesn't start to subside into a minor or moderate flood stage until Sunday night and into Monday. We'll make our way to the Kankakee River. Again, it did crest and it continues to pretty much flatline, but eventually is forecast to go down by later in on the weekend. St. Joseph River obviously impacting Elkhart, St. Joseph, and Berrien counties. Let's look at 3 cities. This is downtown South Bend. Record crest at 12.7 feet. It is forecast to go down, but it's going to take time. That's Tuesday or Wednesday next week before it's in moderate flood stage. This is in Niles. Notice again, record crest of 17 feet. It is continued to forecast to go down to a minor flood stage by about Tuesday or Wednesday next week. And this is in Elkhart, much of the same, forecast to go down, but it's going to take even longer out that way. We'll make our way down into our southern counties as we head to the Tippecanoe River, where you've seen significant issues in not just Winnemac, but also in Fulton County and Kosciuszko counties with a river that's obviously at its capacity for holding water. You'll notice this river, at least in Winnemac, is forecast to actually continue to worsen, eventually cresting by about Saturday afternoon or early Sunday. So the flooding will get worse there before it gets better. The last river I want to show you is the Elkhart River in Goshen, where obviously this created major problems. It did crest at record levels, but has already receded to a minor flood stage. So things are much better in Goshen, but now you're in the cleanup process out that way. I do have some rain, unfortunately, we got to talk about for the weekend, but there is some sunshine and dry weather to talk about as well. I'll have your forecast coming up in about 8-10 minutes.
All right, Matt, thank you very much. So a little good news for some. The St. Joseph River in Elkhart cresting and beginning to go down. That is a good thing for a lot of those people there, but still a lot of people need help. Elkhart Community Schools is reaching out to help some of those people. WSBT 22's Veronica Ortega is live in Elkhart right now with more on that story. Veronica.
Todd, first responders assisted with more than 200 evacuations and rescues since flooding began. But things have slowed down in the past 24 hours, but many people still out of their homes remain in need of help. Elkhart Central High School was one of the hardest hit areas in the city. Rice Field remains underwater, but the parking lot is no longer flooded. The donation drive started this morning. Within a few hours, they had about a quarter of a school bus filled. School and city officials are working with the Red Cross to distribute supplies collected to those in need. The most critical things needed right now are personal hygiene products and monetary donations, which can be dropped off at the Elkhart City Police Department.
It's just great to see the community coming together, the city, the school system, you know, students, teachers. We had students out the other day that were helping fill sandbags. So it's just great to see everybody come together. We hope we can continue this effort as we all work through this recovery process.
The Elkhart County Humane Society is also in need of pet supplies for those displaced pets. You can drop those donations off tonight at the boys basketball game at Northside Middle School. They will have a school bus parked there until 7:30. Live in Elkhart, Veronica Ortega, WSBT 22 News.
All right, Veronica, thank you very much. So the flooding beginning to recede, but it's going to take a few more days still. And then that's when the massive cleanup will begin. And hopefully we'll have a better assessment of how much damage was done. Governor Holcomb wanting to remind people again to document and report their damage to the appropriate state or local agency so that your area can qualify for state and federal assistance. Very important to do that, he said. That is the latest from here on the IUSB campus. Jennifer, back to you.
All of that documentation becomes very important when something like this happens. And of course, all of the cleanup is something that will be ongoing and we will be following for, unfortunately, months to come.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 5.
A WSBT 22 weather alert now at 5. A winter storm warning in effect for many of you right now. This is the scene for most of you today. Plow trucks working around the clock to keep you safe.
Here's a live look from Berrien County and South Bend. You can see the conditions. If you do not have to go out tonight, stay in and avoid the roads.
We have live team coverage from every corner of our area. WSBT 22 has 3 meteorologists working to track this storm for you and the next system this weekend. Our team of reporters keeping an eye on the roads and have up-to-the-minute updates on the changing conditions. We will be checking in with the reporters throughout the entire newscast.
We will, but first we need to get right to WSBT 22 meteorologist Abby Wepler for an update on what's happening right now with that storm.
Right now, we're not done with it, and I'm sure you've probably noticed if you looked outside that we are not. Now, our southern counties currently getting a break, but we still have that deep shade of blue pretty much impacting the midsection of our area. Those deeper shades of blue mean that's a heavier, steadier snow, but we'll check in south first. So, for example, Fulton and even Pulaski County, a little bit of a break for you. In Warsaw, we see a lot of bright white for the most part. It's not snowing as bad for you right now, but then we go a little bit farther north. So around Plymouth, Lakeville, Elkhart, Goshen, through Sturgis, LaGrange, and even LaPorte County, those deep shades of blue, that is a pretty impressive snowfall rate. For some of you, it's up to an inch an hour. And that's why we're saying if you don't have to go anywhere tonight, maybe stay tight, because this is still stretching through Illinois into portions of Iowa. And so we still have a couple more hours where we're under a winter storm warning and still dealing with that light snow, at least throughout the early evening hours. The hour-by-hour forecast, though, is something to pay attention to. Very interesting, especially if you work third shifts on the weekend. This is important. Look what happens. By about 9 o'clock, we see it tapering off. Early overnight hours, we get a break. That's going to help those road crews catch up before we see more snow early tomorrow. So what have we seen so far? Well, right now, at latest glance, Shipshewana, 13.5 inches of snow. Buchanan, just over a foot. Niles at a foot. LaGrange, just under a foot. Mishawaka at 10 inches. Argus, though, look at that cutoff. You get to Argus, only 3 inches of snow. But South Bend set a record today, 8.8 inches of snow. And that's where we're going to throw things over to meteorologist Ed Russo, who's been in South Bend today. I mean, yeah, Ed, a record snow, and we continue to see it falling. What's going on out there right now?
Yeah, I'm actually located just north of the bypass, and that's one place the plows have been really working today. It's been a busy day for road crews trying to keep up with this heavy, widespread snow. Road crews have been working since last night around the clock, trying to clear the streets and main thoroughfares. Some of the plowing needs to be done in a very coordinated effort, though, by NDOT. Parts of the bypass today had to be cleared by a process called plow walling, and here's why.
In this situation, the biggest reason we did it here on the bypass is simply because we had so much snow packed up on those center walls from several days of big snows that there's really no place to put the snow anymore. So when we have crews coming by to do a regular plowing, there's no place to put that snow. So we came through just now and pushed all that snow off the center wall and now pushed it all the way to the far shoulder. And now that gives us plenty more storage room for when that snow continues to fall.
And so one of the biggest ways you can help road crews is by simply staying off the roads. We can't say that enough because that allows them to clear the roads. That keeps you out of the way, and that keeps you, of course, out of the way of them. And keep in mind, if you're out shoveling this stuff, it is the real heavy, wet snow. We're talking temperatures in the low 30s, so the snow easily packs. The heaviest and wettest part of this event, as far as the consistency of the snow is concerned, is happening right now. Live in South Bend, I'm WSBT 22 First Alert meteorologist Jennifer and Todd. Back to you.
All right, Ed, thank you. You know, South Bend isn't the only area just being pelted with snow.
Yeah, certainly not. WSBT 22's Caitlin Conton is live now in Niles. And Caitlin, Southwest Michigan has received quite a bit of snow as well.
Yes, and it's heavy. I want to show you how packable it is. Just like Ed said, it's heavy, it's wet, it's really good snowman making material, but that is making driving a little challenging. We've seen a lot of people slipping and sliding out there, and this heavy snow is also hard to clear. Plenty of people are working up a sweat with shovels today. Even a snowblower doesn't make a big difference. The people I spoke to said the blower is heavy and you still have to make a couple of passes to get all that snow. William McGill is using a tractor, and he says clearing the snow is still hard.
And I don't know why I'm sitting talking to you, because I've been gone 5 weeks. I just got back Sunday from a nice warm travel through Grand Canyon, Las Vegas.
Fortunately, McGill doesn't have to work today, but some people are working hard to take advantage of all of this snow. Coming up at 6, hear how they're making a profit. Live in Niles, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
All right, Caitlin, take a look at this. This is a video of a massive 38-vehicle pileup on I-94. It happened in Galesburg, which is in Kalamazoo County. Several injuries reported, but police say all of those are minor. By the way, you can check to see if the plows are working where you live without even stepping outside with this map. MDOT's interactive website lets you see where the state and contracted plows are working. Once you open the website, click the blue icon on the left to see the snow plows on the statewide map. Click the purple icon for the snow plows. You can even see webcam shots.
First, fast, accurate with Jennifer Copeland and Todd Connor. You're watching WSBT 22 News at 6.
Now at 6, the dangerous heat moving into our area.
Yeah, you can see behind us from our Skycam, people still braving the beaches in St. Joseph, actually trying to find ways to cool off. Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin is live in Mishawaka outside our studios. Matt, how's it feel outside right now?
You wouldn't know, Todd, because you're in that nice, cool studio. It's hot, it's muggy. Today, at least for most of us, this is kind of typical summer heat and humidity. It's really tomorrow I'm concerned with the dangerous heat. Let me start off with live storm tracker radar. As you would expect, it is sweeping all clear, not worried about any problems there. But an excessive heat warning now in effect for all of northern Indiana, southwest Michigan, and honestly our entire region. This is the top tier when it comes to heat alerts. As a matter of fact, the last time this was issued was 7 years ago. So these are very rare. The heat, excessive heat warnings, heat advisories happen from time to time. But that should give you an idea of the heat we're talking about. And again, tonight it's 90s. Overnight we fall back in the 70s. Tomorrow will likely be just as warm, middle 90s. But the humidity will be much, much worse. The air's gonna be thick, it'll be hazy. So those of you susceptible to respiratory issues, for example, or young kids or elderly folks need to take a lot of time inside tomorrow. Don't spend too much time outside. If you're going to be outside, you got the fair going on, a lot of weekend activities, potentially you work in a factory, for example, water, water, water. That's the key for tomorrow because you're going to sweat a lot with dew points near 80. There is relief, though, coming up. I'll talk about that in the forecast, how long that relief lasts, and look ahead to the 4th of July. That's coming up in just a few minutes. We'll see you then, guys.
Matt, if these temperatures have you feeling like you're melting, you're not alone.
No, WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon is live in Mishawaka right now. Caitlin, as hot as it is outside, we know that it gets hotter inside our cars.
Jennifer, our producer John and I did a little experiment. Check this out. These are just a few gift cards and John's old debit card. Within an hour of being in the car, starting this morning, they started to get soft. And just look at them now. They are just foldable like paper. So if the inside of your car can do this much damage to a debit card, imagine what it could do to your dog or your child. And these cars are not the only things getting hot.
It is so hot.
Noble Klein might be sweating, but his mom is from Florida. She's used to it.
We always have backup water everywhere. Stay hydrated.
Keeping your body cool is pretty straightforward, but keeping objects cool can be a lot harder.
The most common thing that people don't think of right off the bat is the area they're walking on.
In the full sun around noontime today, the blacktop was 105 degrees. It only got hotter as the day wore on.
This time of year, if you're taking kids somewhere, they probably either don't have shoes on or they take them off very quickly.
Even if you do manage to keep your kid in shoes, they may get burned elsewhere, like the back of their legs going down a slide.
And we've got a nice breeze, actually. So people might think, oh, this is pretty nice time. It's going to keep it cool. Well, it's still at 130 degrees.
In fact, most of the playground equipment was around that hot, from the swings to the wood chips on the ground.
When you've got somebody who's less than 5 years old, their skin is pretty thin. And why expose them to that?
Sharon says it might be better to take your kids to an indoor play structure, like at a mall or McDonald's.
They're still going to get some energy and their energy worked out and get some good exercise without exposing them to those temperatures.
Sharon says a lot of you are probably taking your kids to splash pads to keep cool. He says the pavement around those can still get pretty hot, especially where it's dry. Sharon says try your best to keep your kids in flip-flops or water shoes so the bottoms of their feet don't get burned. Live in Mishawaka, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
And make sure to stay with us for the latest on those dangerous temperatures. We'll show you how the fair is dealing with the heat later in this newscast. And our team of meteorologists and reporters will be bringing you stories of how the heat is impacting people all throughout the weekend.
As a retired paramedic, there's nothing more disheartening than to come into a major scene where CPR needs to be done prior to our arrival, and see that unfortunately nobody's been trained or no one knows, no one does the CPR.
The average ambulance response time is within 8 minutes. When you're dealing with a respiratory or cardiac emergency, time is of the essence.
By the time they get to the vehicle, drive the vehicle here, find where we're at on the beach, best case scenario, I've been without oxygen for 3, 4, 5 minutes.
But what if you could do something before that 3, 4, 5 minutes? In a drowning situation, things happen fast and irreversible brain injury occurs within minutes if CPR is not performed. When a person is actively drowning, they will submerge within 60 seconds. After 2 minutes of submersion, a drowning victim has a 94% survival rate if CPR is properly performed. Around 3 minutes, the heart may stop. At 4 minutes, irreversible brain damage occurs. At 10 minutes of submersion, chances of survival drop to 14% even if CPR is performed properly. Survivors will likely have moderate to severe brain injury. Now comes the question, how and what kind of CPR do you perform? In a heart attack situation, the victim stops breathing and the heart has stopped beating. Oxygen is already present in the body, which is why compression-only CPR can be effective. But a drowning situation is a respiratory emergency, and rescue breaths are critical.
If we have a child, because children don't typically have heart attacks, or we have a drowning where we pull someone out of the water, that the problem is not their heart. Their heart may have stopped, but it hasn't stopped because of a heart attack. It stopped because there's no longer any oxygen in their body, and oxygen is required in order for the heart muscle to beat. Shake them a little bit.
When you pull a person out of the water, shake them or shout at them to see if they are unconscious. If you have no response and there's no pulse or no breathing, CPR needs to be performed. First, dial 911, then perform 2 breaths on an adult to inflate the lungs, and then do 30 compressions at the rate of 100 compressions per minute. For a child or infant, perform 2 breaths, then 15 compressions at the rate of 100 compressions per minute. Keep alternating between breaths and compressions until you get a response. The best way to keep everyone safe around water is to know the concept of Safer 3. Safer water means having a latching pool cover or protective gate along with floatables to throw someone in distress. Safer people means making sure everyone in your group, especially children, have basic swimming skills. Safer response means having an emergency action plan in case you need to save someone's life. Knowing some form of CPR is absolutely critical. It's easy to become trained and certified.
There's several agencies that do CPR training, the American Heart Association, the American Red Cross, a lot of YMCAs, a lot of fire departments will have Red Cross training.
In addition to the cold, we've seen high winds today all across the area. Take a look at this. This is St. Joseph right now, really creating stunning views out there.
Yeah, for sure. WSBT 22's Caitlin Connon is live at Silver Beach. And Caitlin, some huge waves we can see right behind you on the lake today.
Todd, even with these bitter winds, it is hard not to be impressed by these waves. Look at them, they're huge. Of course, they are dangerous, but that has not stopped some people from taking advantage of that surf.
I was out there just kite surfing, trying to get the last session of the year.
West Hanson's last thrill on the water comes with a high price. He can pretty much only do this during the winter.
The waves will get big once the storms push through. So when the north wind starts blowing like it is today, they'll have the high surf advisories. It's getting pretty cold out there though. The water's probably about 40 degrees.
If you're looking to hit the waves too, Adam Klain with the Coast Guard says, be careful.
As soon as those waves are getting pretty significant, you're looking at rip currents, you're looking at heavy surf conditions, which can roll you over in the waves. And so if you're going out there to surf or even for some reason swim, it could really take you far out.
So Hansen uses the buddy system.
I told them to keep an eye on me so that they would know, at least we're out there.
Klain says that's a good idea anytime you're going out on the water. He says you also need to think about your outfit.
Wear the appropriate clothing and just be safe. Just be cognizant of how cold it is.
Hansen has a pretty thick wetsuit.
5'4" with the built-in hood. That's a necessity.
Yeah, absolutely.
Of course, we got booties and gloves.
All that might come in handy if he loses his board.
Never go further out than you can swim in.
Hansen's last piece of advice?
Be safe, hang loose.
Of course, Hansen knows that he's taking a risk by being out on the water, but Klain says you can put yourself in danger by just watching these waves. Hear why he says that tonight at 6. Live in St. Joseph, Caitlin Connon, WSBT 22 News.
It's been a snowy winter. I think what most people have been talking about, a very, very cold spring. I think it's safe to say everyone's ready for summer.
Absolutely. But before we just jump into summer, we need to take a look back, of course, at some of these months that I'm sure that really have stuck out in your minds, and then see how those similar years compared as they panned out. So, LaPorte, this was a winter for you. 138.3 inches of snow fell in your area. More snow here than the winter of 77-78. You know, the blizzard. That is the true story of lake effect. Notice our southern counties in the 20s, but this number right here is the one that will go down in the record books as we get our official totals in South Bend. So 93.1 inches of snow fell in South Bend for the winter season. And to give you perspective, our normal is 66.6. So it was quite a snowy winter. We are actually going down in the records as the 10th snowiest winter on record. And of course, winter being December through February. So that's just one piece of the pie. When we're talking about snow, let's talk about temperatures. Our average high is pretty close, about 0.2 of a degree below average at 33.6 degrees, but it was the mornings. Remember all those school delays? If it wasn't for snow, it was for cold. Our average lows were 2 degrees below normal. So it was a cold and snowy winter. And Matt, it has made for quite a spring so far.
Absolutely. So we'll look at spring, see how it's shaped up thus far. We still have several weeks to go. Right now, 2018 is the coldest start to spring on record from the period of March 21st to just a few days ago, April 19th, at 36.5 degrees. You average out the highs and lows. That's what we had. That's pretty significant. Abby talked about the cold and snowy winters. Here were 4 seasons that we looked at that also were pretty cold. We also tacked on some cold springs and compared these seasons as well. One thing we usually talk about is La Nina or El Nino seasons. La Nina right now should transition to El Nino by the fall, meaning the summer is pretty neutral. So we really relied heavily on these analog years, and most of them presented us with warmer than average summer temperatures and near normal precipitation. For that reason, the forecast for this summer is hotter than normal. We usually see around 10 days of 90 degrees or better. We'll likely see around 15. And one thing to note about this upcoming summer, the hottest days, more likely than not, will be the first half of the summer season.
Now, your accurate First Alert weather forecast with Chief Meteorologist Matt Rudkin.
Sure is nice to see some of the dry streets out there. I know earlier today at noon, Abby was showing this, and it was a little wet. We don't need any more rain, but at this point, you know what? If we're going to see rain, at least it's pretty light. There's the Elkhart River downtown Elkhart. It is better. Earlier, this thing was way up here, right by the road. Yesterday, early this morning, it's receded a bit, but still, that is very high, raging river there. It is 40 in South Bend, 44 in Elkhart, 43 in Syracuse, 44 in Ligonier, 38 up there in Benton Harbor. We'll zoom into our southern counties. Those of you down that way, most of you in the 40s, a little bit cooler in our western counties. Temperatures tonight basically are going to stay here in the 30s as we head towards the overnight hours and into your Saturday morning. Let's check out our Futurecast model again. Unfortunately, we do have to talk about some rain. The good news is for most of us, especially those of you up here in southern Michigan, not a whole lot. Those of you in north central Indiana, maybe a little bit more. This is the latest model run that's coming in. This is 10 a.m. tomorrow. Notice it's certainly focused on central Indiana. Thank goodness. If this was 100 miles north, we'd be in big trouble. Not going to be. So that's the good news. But Warsaw and Rochester areas over towards Ligonier, you're going to get just a little bit more rain than the rest of us. Up in Michigan, I don't even know if you're going to see any tomorrow. It may be a pretty dry day for you. Tomorrow night, maybe one more batch, but again, the heaviest does stay near the Fort Wayne and Anderson, Indianapolis areas. How much rain are we expecting? This is for South Bend, the middle of our TV market here. And you can see this is a decent rain. We're talking maybe a quarter of an inch or so. That's not enough to bring these rivers back up. What it will do is slow the recession of them, though, especially down by the Tippy River and the Wabash River in north central Indiana. Up in Michigan, things should continue to improve for you for the weekend. 40 for your Saturday. Notice what happens on Sunday. We dry things out here a little bit, and then by Monday, next week looks fantastic. This is just the best weather we could ask for. Some strong late winter and early spring sunshine, along with warm temperatures in the mid-50s, will really help the soil out, allow it to absorb more water, help the rivers recede, and give us some time here to breathe and unfortunately start the cleanup process. Once these waters go down, then we got to pull the carpets, and for some of you, much more than that. So it's going to be a rough couple days, I think.
Yeah, we need them, though, desperately.
We do, yeah.
Matt, thank you.
Now, your accurate first alert weather forecast with meteorologist Carrie Peugeot.
We're finally getting that much needed break from the rain showers. We started that yesterday. You saw that sun if you were outside at all. We get a break from it today and tomorrow, which is great news. Now the rain showers this week return on Wednesday. Wednesday's not a big focus. That rain on Wednesday is extremely minimal and barely showing up, but we are watching Thursday. Thursday's a day that we're going to start tracking out our next storm system. So our next weather maker nowhere close to us. In fact, this is Futurecast. I even skipped today because it's so quiet. This starts at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning, but we're really watching what's developing off to our southwest because we're going to watch those rain showers develop over Texas and then start to track off to the north and east. So on Wednesday, this is early Wednesday morning, we start to see some clouds and you can see some rain showers near us, but it's not that big of a deal. So for Wednesday, most of the rain showers are south along the Ohio River. Not good for them, but certainly no one in our area really needs these showers. So on Wednesday during the day, we'll see a few more clouds. We might get an occasional shower, but it's not going to be significant. Now on Thursday, we're tracking this storm system, and there's likely to be some shifts in this track as we get closer to it. This is 11 o'clock Thursday morning. You can see that heavier rain right over us, and then it changes over to snow for Friday morning. Typically, this system, if we just isolated it and looked at all these numbers in the track of the storm, it wouldn't really be that noteworthy. But because it comes after record amounts of rainfall, we are watching these numbers, the amount of water that we're going to be tracking pretty closely. So this is Futurecast, and I have this just on Thursday. By 8 o'clock Thursday night, this computer model has us with about an inch of rain. Now again, that by itself wouldn't really be that noteworthy, except that it comes after some major flooding concerns. So we're going to watch that pretty closely. It's not likely that an inch of rain would cause a complete repeat of what happened, but it certainly would slow down some of those receding waters that are going to linger for a long time. I mean, we still have schools closed in Plymouth because of this, so that's something that we will watch. But keep in mind, that's on Thursday, and we're on Monday, a nice quiet Monday. We are seeing rain showers down in Kentucky and Tennessee, but not in our area. Winds are very light or calm, which also contributes to the nice quiet start to our Monday. 5 miles per hour in South Bend, and the winds are out of the south and southwest. That southwest wind is going to help warm us up. Now, this number, I don't want you just to focus on this. This is how great the afternoon will feel. We will see temperatures in the lower 50s, but right now you reverse those numbers, and that's what we have. We're at 25 degrees in a lot of spots right now. It's really cold this morning. You'll want that winter coat to start, but you'll also want the sunglasses, and we end up around 52 later this afternoon. Nice and clear and quiet. It gets a little breezier overnight tonight, windier as we get into tomorrow, but we drop down to 32 tonight, and then we're up to 58 tomorrow. 2 days here in a row. No chances of rain, just sunshine, some nice warm afternoons. We add in a small chance of rain on Wednesday. That amount of water is going to be really minimal. It's not going to matter for our flooding concerns. But Thursday, we're going to keep our eye on that track pretty closely. And on Friday, we're tracking a little bit of light snow that will melt pretty much right after it falls.
Now, your accurate first alert weather forecast with meteorologist Abby Wepler.
So it's here.
Yep.
It is. Boy, just walking into the building today.
I know.
It's muggy.
You gotta do what
is.
some people are doing and get out on the lakes.
Yeah, right.
We have been watching this all afternoon. Look at them go.
Oh.
People have been tubing, boating, fishing, doing all kinds of things. You want to know what? Especially if you don't have air conditioning in your own home, go for it. You don't just need to go to Lake Michigan. You can go to any of our inland lakes. For example, this is Indian Lake, and yeah, we've seen people just enjoying their afternoon with this heat and humidity now starting to build in. Here it is right now, some low 90s, 90 in South Bend, 90 91 in Niles and Elkhart. Same in Rochester. We have a south wind in place, so even our lake cities, because the wind is blowing toward the lake, also dealing with that 90-degree weather. And we expect a south wind pretty much throughout the weekend at 5 to 15 miles per hour. So, of course, with the heat in place and the humidity building in, here we go. Winamac, it feels like 110, feels like 97 in South Bend, feels like 107 in Valparaiso. I do want to let you know tomorrow is predicted to be our hottest day of the weekend. When we factor in the humidity, I expect widespread heat index values in the triple digits, closer to 110 degrees. So just helping you plan ahead. You step outside right now, just know tomorrow's going to be turned up a notch. Here we go behind me, though. This is St. Joseph First Alert Weather Camera. People have been in Lake Michigan all day, and they have been reserving their spots early on the beach. So that's just a heads up for you as well. If you're planning on going to our beaches tomorrow, just get there early, because I'm sure they're going to be pretty crowded. 88 by 8 o'clock, and by 10 o'clock, I still expect we're going to be holding on to the 80s. It's going to be muggy overnight, so if you don't have air conditioning, hopefully you got some fans going to at least get the air moving around, because we're not going to feel much relief overnight as well. Storm Tracker radar has us quiet. I do expect us to stay quiet tonight. That sunshine overhead, wider view showing you really nothing to track for you as we make our way through tonight and even into tomorrow. It won't be until Sunday night that cold front that helps knock the humidity out of here until that moves through. So tomorrow, 94 is our high. Notice all across the Midwest, we're all stuck in this heat dome, even all the way over to Northeast Ohio, all the way out into Iowa. Everybody dealing with that heat. We get into Sunday. Sunday's at 90, because I expect we'll see a few extra clouds during the day. Notice, though, to our northwest on Sunday, we have the 80s. That's because the cold front will have already moved through for them. For us, it will be early evening. So the bulk of Sunday, just remember that heat and humidity isn't going anywhere. I fast forward Futurecast till Sunday morning because we have nothing going on tonight or tomorrow rain-wise. Futurecast tries to bring a stray shower in the morning. That's possible, but I expect the bulk of the day to be pretty dry. It's during the evening hours. You see this line. This is 8 o'clock. That we could see some showers and storms developing ahead of the cold front. Behind it, it will be a cooler, less humid day on Monday, but then that heat starts to build back in as we make our way through next week. Partly cloudy, very muggy tonight. We're in the upper 70s, extremely humid tomorrow. The air temperature is at 94, heat index values nearing that 110 number. Then Sunday, few showers possible during the day, best chance at night, lingering showers early Monday. You can notice much of next week, there is a chance for showers and storms as a couple of short waves moves through. Bulk of the day, though, for the majority of us will most certainly be dry. But just so you know, we'll be hit and miss showers and storms next week because it is so hot and humid. So you see the day that stands out would be Saturday at 109. But even as we get closer to the 4th of July, we're still looking at temperatures near 90, heat index values near 100, which we've done before. We've done it before for 4th of July. We've done it before during the St. Joe County Fair. But it's just something you need to be thinking about, because we know picnics, cookouts, all that stuff, very popular for the holiday, and it's going to be hot.
The bad thing is you can't even drive an hour or two and get out of this.
Right.
It's like
the entire Midwest. I know it has pretty much taken out a chunk of the country, and it's pretty brutal.
And when Monday with a heat index of 91 starts to look good.
I know. That gives you perspective where you're like 91, and then you're like, okay. Yeah, it's going to be pretty bad.
It is brutal. Abby, thanks.